Hi, I'm Isabella, and just over a year ago, I decided to pursue my long-lost dream of becoming a burlesque dancer. So welcome to episode 3 of the Showgirl Diaries, where I am taking you through my whole journey, showing you exactly how I became a burlesque dancer. You may be interested in going back and watching episode 1 and 2 to understand how I got started in burlesque. All of the episodes will be linked below. We finished last episode with our big move to Brighton, where I would be living with my two friends, David and Alex, who also happen to be drag queens by the names of Foxy and Roxy for Rox. Now this episode is going to be a little bit more talky than the previous 2 episodes because over this period of the story I didn't actually get a lot of vlog footage, but this part of the story is where it gets crazy, so you don't want to miss it. But I will be adding in as many photos and clips that I can find throughout. So back to the story. It was October, just 5 months after starting my burlesque journey. I had 2 acts now, and I had been posting more on my burlesque Instagram account. And by some strange miracle, I had booked a Halloween gig in Brighton with Babette's Cabaret, run by the incredible BB Bohem, which was just 3 weeks after our move-in date. And having spent the first week unpacking and settling in, I only had 2 weeks to create a new Halloween act. I wanted to try something completely different and completely out of my comfort zone, and I had been really loving the song Show Me How to Live by Audioslave. Now I know this is a huge risk because Show Me How to Live is a heavy-ish rock song, but many burlesque dancers dance to rock music. It's a whole different vibe and it's really fun and fierce. I've always loved how it looks and I've always wanted to try it. I also realised the lyrics would work perfectly with a Frankenstein theme, and I had studied the book in my final year at university, so it seemed like a good choice to make last minute. I love PVC outfits. I love PVC burlesque costumes. So I knew the costume had to be PVC, but I was still on a budget. So my costume derived of anything I could find that was black PVC or leather, pleather, fishnets, chains, etc, etc. I already had this black PVC lace-up miniskirt that was super cool. I found it in a charity shop and I knew it would come in handy one day. I based most of the costume around that skirt. I also already had some black ripped up fishnets, some black leather boots, lots of strappy harnessy type things, which meant that I only had to buy a black PVC corset, underwear, bra, fake limbs, and fake blood. My concept was I was a female version of Frankenstein's monster and I was coming alive throughout the routine. At the beginning of the dance, I was like in my chains, just about to come alive, and the whole dance is me just kind of like learning how to walk but also taking my clothes off at the same time. Then I find these limbs and I realise that I'm dead and that I'm a monster, and then I end with like going crazy and grabbing one of the limbs and squeezing it, and all this fake blood comes out all over me, and that's how the dance ends, and I'm like in my underwear. Great, sexy, wonderful, we love it. I made my own PVC pasties, which were red this time, which I made by just ordering a sample of some red PVC from eBay and some buckram, which I had left over from when I made my last pasties. I ordered the bra secondhand off of Vinted, and I actually made it into a tearaway bra, so I cut off the cups and added all these tiny little buttons, which I had to sew on by hand to a wire bra, which was not easy and not fun, and my fingers were sore. That took the longest, but it was worth it for the tearaway. Creating this routine was the most challenging by far because I only had 2 weeks to do it, and it didn't actually include any traditional burlesque dance moves. I was essentially trying to act, move, and dance as if Frankenstein's monster had just awoken and was learning how to walk and move and discovering their own body, whilst finding interesting ways to take my clothes off and also trying not to make it look like the Thriller dance, which was really confusing to do. So I would rehearse it in the living room of our new flat, and it was actually so bad that I really struggled to watch back the rehearsal footage. In fact, I think I have deleted it all because it was so embarrassing to watch back. Anyway, so I ended up with some kind of bizarre amateur Halloween dance / striptease that finished with me pouring fake blood all over myself. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this even burlesque? Yes, it is. And that is why burlesque is so amazing. So this style of burlesque would actually be classed as neo-burlesque, which is essentially any modern or unconventional form of burlesque which doesn't encompass the traditional vintage style, which actually makes it so much more fun. Neo-burlesque can pretty much be anything. It can be wacky, it can be ridiculous, it can be funny, political, theatrical, almost anything goes. Then there are subcategories like nerdlesque and gorelesque, which are self-explanatory. The Halloween performance went okay. It was a bit slapdash and not at all graceful, even though it didn't exactly need to be. Anyway, it definitely was not my greatest performance, but it did still get a really great response from the audience, which was amazing. However, watching the performance back, I realized that it wasn't quite a style that I could excel in, at least not just yet. It needed a lot of work and practice and developing if I were to ever perform it again, but I'm really glad that I tried something that was out of my comfort zone, even though I only performed it once. Just a quick one to let you know that I have not been able to get a sponsor for this series, so it would mean the world if you want to support in any way just to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment. It really helps the algorithm. I am trying my darndest with this series. I want it to be seen by more people. Share it with a friend, share it on Facebook, share it on your social media if you want to. You don't have to, but it would help so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the video. November and December, I took a little bit of a break whilst we were getting used to Brighton life, settling into our flat, enjoying the holidays. January came around and I booked a spot to perform my classic Rouge act at Cabaret Lab, which is a open mic night for anyone that wants to try out new performances, new acts, comedy sets, skits. It's a really beginner friendly show because it's meant for newcomers to try out new material, and it's also really handy because they film all the acts, so you can use that footage to book more gigs. It's also free for the audience to attend, so if you're in Brighton and you're interested in going for a free night of entertainment or to apply, it's every first Sunday of the month at the Caroline of Brunswick, and the performers are paid based on donations. They haven't asked me to say that or anything, this is just part of my story. So I went, I performed my act, I met some other lovely performers. Actually, this was the performance where I finally started to feel like I knew it well enough that I could sort of play around and have a bit more fun with it and relax a bit more into it, rather than constantly thinking what the next part is. And this is a really nice place to get to with any routine. It's just when you finally feel a bit more comfortable in your act. And it was around this time that I started to think, I wonder if I could ever actually put on my own show. But before I could even entertain the idea, I had to find a job. Since moving to Brighton, I had been applying for part-time jobs all over the place, and I had been turned down and ignored over and over again, until on a whim I decided to email Proud Cabaret Brighton just to ask if they had any bar or waitressing positions open, even though they weren't hiring. Oh my god, you'll never guess what. I have a trial shift this Friday at Proud Cabaret Brighton in 2 days. Oh my, I can't even believe it. I cannot believe it. I went to my trial shift and finally I was hired. My god, I look like a hot mess right now, but I have to film because I'm so excited by life right now. Last night I did my first ever shift. I did a 14.5-hour shift. Yeah, I'm knackered, but I also met the owner of Proud Cabaret and his girlfriend, who's a producer, and he just happened to be in on my first ever shift. He never really comes to the Brighton venue because he's obviously the owner of like all 3 venues. Took the opportunity to chat with him and tell him that I'm hoping to perform there one day. So I started waitressing there in February, which was really exciting. And we got to wear the cutest little uniform, which consisted of a black corset, black short bottoms, fishnets, and any kind of cute little lingerie pieces or accessories that we wanted to accessorize with. It was like my dream uniform. It was a lot of fun and I got on really well with the staff. They were all lovely, the management were lovely. It was really good socially for me because I hadn't really met many people yet in Brighton, but oh my goodness, it was really hard work. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but let's just say I have never had a job quite like it. And I have had normal jobs. I have not been doing YouTube all my life. I have worked night shifts in clubs. I have worked 9-hour shifts at McDonald's. I have worked bar positions, and I have never had a job quite like that one. But I had a lot of love and respect for everyone that worked there, and I really valued getting to know more about the cabaret industry. I got to see some amazing performers and burlesque acts. I even got to watch the performances and meet some of my favourite burlesque dancers that I have been following on Instagram, such as Roxy Van Plume and Ida Sanguine. But it was only on my 4th shift working there that the craziest effing thing happened. And I will legitimately be telling this story for the rest of my life. I had arrived to work one evening, the usual 5 o'clock start, and my manager was in distress. 2 of the burlesque acts that were meant to be performing that night had dropped out, and she asked me if I knew any other burlesque performers in Brighton that could fill in last minute. I messaged everyone I knew, which wasn't that many people at that point, and I waited for a response. She had done the same thing. Time was ticking on, and that's when she asked me as a joke, "Do you have your costume?" To which I responded, laughing nervously, no, that's not going to happen. Of course, that would not happen. There's no way. Besides, someone would soon get back to her and fill in and save the show. The idea that I might have to jump in and fill in as a burlesque dancer for the show as a waitress was just hilarious. But I think we kind of had it in the back of our heads. It could happen. But I was almost definite that someone would respond, someone would come in last minute. Half an hour had passed. It was now around 5:30 and the show was meant to start at 8. So you know where the story is going, don't you? I realised I had to do what was lingering in the back of my head the whole time. So I went to my manager. I told her, I only have 1 act and it's probably not very good. But if you need, I will go home and get my costume and come back and perform, and then get back to work. She opened the till, grabbed a 20, and quickly gave it to me. "Go home," she said. "Get in a taxi, get your costume, and come straight back." All of a sudden, I was scrambling up the stairs to the staff room on my phone, trying to book an Uber. Whilst I was in the Uber, I called my flatmate Foxy, who quickly got my things together for me. I ran in the door, I shaved my legs, I packed my stuff together whilst trying to explain what was going on, and then I was back in the Uber on my way back to work to attempt to save the show. It was stress. I got back to the venue, went up to the performers' changing room. My manager was super nice, made sure that I was okay. She got me plenty of drinks, tried to calm my nerves. A few shots of coffee tequila later, I was in the wings waiting to perform my classic Rouge act, which I had only just created 11 months ago, having been in my waitressing uniform just 3 hours ago. And before I had time to even process what was going on, I was shimmying my butt on Proud Cabaret stage. At this point, my life actually feels like the real life manifestation of the burlesque movie, even though the burlesque movie isn't even about burlesque, which is ironic. But what the heck is going on? Why is my life turning into a movie? Anyway, it was such an adrenaline rush that I don't really remember much of the performance, but it went surprisingly well. I did have one very small wardrobe malfunction, but I managed to hide it pretty well. All of the staff stopped to watch me and were so supportive, so sweet. They really hyped me up afterwards as well. My manager even filmed it, which is how I got this footage. And I even got a standing ovation from this one woman. "I see you." And then I was literally back into my uniform to finish my waitressing shift. Hands down, the craziest shift I have ever had in my entire life. And call it coincidence, but I found it very weird that I just so happened to have spent hours the night before styling a burlesque wig, which was incredibly good timing and very handy considering I wouldn't have had time to wash and style my greasy ass hair. So I just popped the wig on. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't have styled it the night before. And I never style wigs, like what? Divine timing. It also helped that I had my entire costume packed and ready to go in a suitcase under my bed. Since that night, I always make sure to have my costume and wig ready and at least mostly packed and ready to go at all times, because you never know when your next opportunity is going to come and just how short notice it might be when it does. So after all this happened, naturally you would think, Isabella, why don't you just audition to be a part of the show instead of waitressing there? Now yes, that was actually the eventual plan with this job, but the problem was, to perform there I would need at least 2 high quality acts, and although I had 3 at this point, Classic Rouge, Heatwave and Show Me How to Live, 2 of those acts I had only performed once and they were nowhere near at a level or developed enough to perform on a professional stage. Classic Rouge was the only one I had that was developed enough for that stage. However, I did have another show coming up. I had met a lady through a few other performers who was putting on a small burlesque show in Hastings. It was going to be spring themed and she said she'd love for me to perform in it. It was the perfect opportunity to create a new act, and I was determined to make this act my best one yet. And you can see what happens next in episode 4. Or you can join my Patreon, it's only £2 a month and I've already posted all about it there. There's so many vlogs and clips of my burlesque journey that will not be shown in this series. There's loads of other normal vlogs and extra content on there as well. That is linked below. That is all for this time. Remember to thumbs up the video if you enjoyed it, give it a chance in the algorithm, leave a comment, share this video with a friend who might like it, subscribe to watch more episodes, and if you want to know when new episodes come out, click the notification bell or you can join my email group linked below. And this is your friendly reminder to go and see a burlesque show. Bye!
Do you wanna feel what I feel? Will you step away from your shadow, dear?
And while I was in the Uber, I called my fat mate.